morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome back to Children's Church. I'm so glad to have you here with me. All this month we are talking about stories Jesus told, but I'm going to take a brief second to say happy almost Valentine's Day. If you can't tell, I am ready. I'm decked out in hearts. It's fun. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the book of Matthew, chapter 13, and yet another one of Jesus' parables. It's called the parable of the sower. We're going to jump right in with Matthew chapter 13, verse 1. On that day, Jesus went out of the house and was sitting by the sea. Such large crowds gathered around him, he got in a boat and sat down, while the whole crowd stood on the shore. And then he told them many things in parables, saying, "Consider the sower who went out to sow." It basically means a farmer who went out to put seeds down. As he was sowing, some seed fell along the path, and the birds came along and ate them up. Others fell upon the rocky ground, and there wasn't much soil, but they sprang up quickly because the soil wasn't very deep. But when the sun came, they were scorched. And since they had no root, they withered. Some fell among the thorns and came up and choked them. Still others fell on good ground and produced a crop, some 100, some 60, some 30 times what was sown. Anyone who has ears should listen. Then the disciples came up and asked him, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" And Jesus answered them, "Because secrets of the kingdom of heaven have been given for you to know, but it has not been given to them. For whoever has, more will be given to him, and he will have more than enough. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. For this reason I speak in parables, because looking they do not see, and hearing they do not listen or understand. Isaiah's prophecy is fulfilled within them, which says, 'You will listen and listen, yet never understand, and look, but never perceive.' For the people's hearts have grown callous. For their ears are hard of hearing, and they have shut their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn back, and I would cure them." Now, why do I keep reading even though we're talking about the parable? Because Isaiah's prophecy and the parable are connected. They're saying the same thing. The seed that fell upon the hard ground is the hardened hearts. The seed couldn't grow there because the ground was stone and there was nowhere for the seeds to take place. The ears that couldn't hear were the seeds that fell among the thorns. And the thorns came up and choked them because they couldn't hear the message because they were surrounded by bad things. And the eyes that looked but didn't see are the seeds that fell on the shallow ground and came up quickly, but then withered in the sun because they didn't have the roots. The seed took root, but not enough because they didn't understand. Jesus didn't just tell them a parable. He then told them what was behind the parable, Isaiah's prophecy. Jesus taught, and then he taught it again to make the disciples understand why he used stories like this. Now, I often like to say that Jesus used parables to help people understand things that were difficult. But here's the disciple asking the same question. So he told them what was behind his story. And I really like that. Jesus was a teacher above all else. He did a lot of things, but he was a really good teacher. I'm sorry, guys, I had a muffin this morning. It's kind of stuck in my throat. So let's look back at it again. The hard ground was the hearts that were hard. And the rocky ground where the seeds were gobbled up was the ears that couldn't hear. No, wait, that was the thorns. Miss Mandy, what are you doing? That was the seed that fell upon the thorns and came up and choked it. And they could look but not perceive was the shoots that came up and withered because they didn't have good roots, because they didn't understand. So what's the seed? Well, the seed is the word of God. It's the love of God. Jesus was teaching about how the love of God can reach people or not reach people using plants to explain himself. Because most people, at least a little, understand how plants work. But understanding the kingdom of heaven is a lot harder. So he broke it down to something they could understand And then to the disciples who knew a little more, he could expand again and tell them what it was connected to. I don't know, I just really like the connection of that. Probably one of my favorite, I'm not going to say it. Not going to do it. Mandy has a lot of favorites, okay? Just like Pastor Jim. A lot of favorite Bible stories, because when you read a lot of the Bible, you end up having a lot of favorites. But I like the connections Jesus made there. And that's what I would like you guys to take with you this week. Remember the connections. Remember that Jesus taught and then taught again. And do your very best to listen. And I'll see you guys next week.